How much does a Texas non-compete lawsuit cost? I'm Zach Wolf. I'm a Texas trial lawyer, and I get that question a lot, although maybe not as often as I should. Let me explain what I mean. A lot of times, a client or a potential client will contact me about a non-compete dispute, and I get the impression that the client really hasn't thought very hard about what it's going to cost to litigate the issue. Think of it this way. If you were going to build a swimming pool in your backyard, would you just call up a swimming pool contractor and say, here's the kind of pool I want, please go build it? No, of course not. You would want to know, what is that swimming pool going to cost? How long is it going to take? How is it going to disrupt my life? If you would ask those questions about building a swimming pool, you should probably ask the same kind of questions about a non-compete lawsuit. So how much is it going to cost? Well, lawyers are going to be reluctant to say up front what a lawsuit is going to cost. One reason for that is that it's just hard to predict. We don't know at the beginning how hard the other side is going to fight, how the judge is going to rule, and we don't know at what point in time that lawsuit is going to settle. So all of those things make it hard to predict what a non-compete lawsuit, like any lawsuit, is going to cost. But based on my experience with non-compete litigation, I can give you some general guidance. But I have to break it down into stages. So let's talk about different stages of a non-compete lawsuit. The typical first stage is going to be the temporary injunction stage, or in federal court they call it a preliminary injunction. Everything's a little fancier in federal court. The temporary injunction stage is the point where the judge decides whether to enter an injunction to bar the employee from competing while the lawsuit is pending. How much does that cost? Marker, please. Thank you. The cost of the temporary injunction stage is $10,000. Now you're thinking, how do you know it's $10,000 every time? Well, obviously I don't. This is a general rule I'm using. It might be a little less, it might be more. But the reason I use $10,000 is this. If you're not prepared to spend $10,000 on the temporary injunction stage, then that tells me right off the bat that you need to be settling this case, because it's going to cost a lot more than that to go all the way. So what would the next stage be? In many non-compete lawsuits, there will be a motion for summary judgment, and it will typically be a motion asking the judge to rule as a legal matter that the non-compete is either enforceable or not enforceable. So how much does that cost? Again, I think $10,000 is a good rule of thumb. If you're not willing and able to spend $10,000 on the summary judgment stage, you probably shouldn't be pursuing it at all. Think of it like this. If you went to a Las Vegas casino where you go to the table and the minimum bet is $10,000, if that's a whole lot of money for you, then it probably tells you you've got no business being at that table. Well, it's kind of the same way with litigation. So what about discovery in general through trial? What can you expect that to cost? My general rule is $100,000. Now, if you're a big law firm lawyer, you might be looking at that laughing, thinking, $100,000, man, that's cheap. So obviously it can cost a lot more than that depending on the complexity of the case and how hard the case is fought. And on the other hand, if you have a really efficient lawyer or a lawyer charging a pretty low hourly rate, you might get through trial for less than $100,000. But the reason I use this number is it's a good way to think about whether you want to invest your money in a non-compete lawsuit. Think of it this way. If you're the employer and you know it's going to cost you around $100,000 to go through trial, you might want to compare that to the amount of profits you think you're going to lose as a result of the employee competing. If it's not up around $100,000, it may not be worth your time and money to pursue it. You might want to do something else with that money. Oh, I don't know, maybe build a swimming pool.